This is called the stages in the light of divine unity, and there are 4 different sixes that over time I came to realize. The first one that I recognized was in the long obligatory prayer, and if you would mind reading that for us, and then we'll go through this.
I testify unto that whereunto have testified all created things, and the concourse on high, and the inmates of the all highest paradise, and beyond them the tongue of grandeur itself, from the all glorious horizon, that thou art God.
Now, you notice that the order in the prayer is from the bottom up. In the chart here, I put on the bottom, because actually we're going from the lowest to the highest. And I'm using the same pattern throughout the divine unities, because it actually shows us how this is connected to the 6 manifestations of Abraham, Moses, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah. These are the new 6. The 6 above the shrine of the Bab, the 6 beyond the Bab. So, taking that, let's take, and starting on the left-hand side, and now go through. And if you're looking on your charts, you can see how we're going here. So we're starting at the bottom of the first divine unity, all created things, and working up.
So the first idea, which is included in that passage, is that of all created things.
All the lower realms, including materialistic man, and even the religious man, and the not man of knowledge, but these are the things that perish. But they are of this realm, this world.
The next concept is that of the concourse on high.
We often think of the concourse on high as someplace we go after we die. I would like to suggest to you there are those that are in the body and those that are out of the body, but if we are in line with the will of God and we're living in the realm of spirit of faith, we in this world become like the physical hands of the invisible world that's through the Spirit guide us. There's a connection between those that do not have bodies and have passed on, but have the same spiritual connection to God as those in the body. And those become not hands with a capital H, that's a station, but hands in a functional way. We become the physical instrument for the concourse on high to work through our lives on a daily basis and assist the well-being of mankind to develop. So that's who I believe are those that are reborn in the kingdom of the Spirit, who live in the spirit of faith, be they carnate or discarnate.
We find the inmates of the all highest paradise.
Those in the paradise of holiness, wholly guided by the will of God. These are those who have so detached themselves and renounced the material world as far as having an attachment to it, that the power of the Holy Spirit works through them to carry out destiny and purpose of that which God has for that soul to do. Some are in the afterlife, and some are still walking around on 2 legs in this life. And I suggest they are connected, and they work together.
And now we rise beyond them in the inaccessible reality of the divine, where we find the tongue of grandeur.
Now, the tongue of grandeur is that single manifestation of which we should have single-minded devotion to in order to gain access to the true wisdom of life. And this manifestation of God in this day is Baha'u'llah. But at one time, that manifestation of God was the Bab. At another time, that manifestation was Muhammad. At another time, that was Christ. And another time, that was Moses and then Abraham. These were the dawning places of the tongue of grandeur of the past.
And we rise to the all-glorious horizon.
The realm from whence the manifestations of God have come and will continue to come from. It's a realm of God's purpose, that these are to be the points from which the divine will is revealed to the world as we know it. And there will be many yet to come, and there have been many that have already come. But they come from the horizon of divine manifestations.
And finally, we affirm Thou art God.
And ultimately, all others, from manifestations of God all the way down to the lowest of all created things, we all honor and bow down before the unknowable essence, the God of the whole earth, the universe. And those are the 6 major definitions of reality. But when we move on to the next group, you notice that this last one had a capital D and a capital U, the ultimate in divine reality. But now we're going to get more specific. In this case, divine is capitalized because it's coming from the above the line, it's in the beyond period. This is to understand that these manifestations of God are actually unified. But we're the ones, the small u in a sense, we are witnessing the divine unity, or the capital D. And that's why I capitalize it, because I believe you'll find in the writings some areas where divine unity is capital D, small u. Sometimes you see small d, capital U, and sometimes small d and small u, because there's a distinction between the various divine unities, all encompassed in the one we just did. So now, to show how the connections are made, we start out by having the right attitude, the valley of search. This comes from 7 valleys. I'm going to show where 7 valleys is about searching for what? For the 6. And now if you'll read each one of them, I will give the little explanation.
So we begin in the valley of search,
which is having the right attitude, looking for, searching for the life and for the way of the 6.
And from there we continue into the valley of love.
Loving and recognizing the beauty of oneness, the spirit of oneness. What attracts us to the Baha'i faith? That spirit of oneness, the oneness of religion, the oneness of humanity, the oneness of God. That's the ultimate beauty, that it's all of a single holistic view. Einstein said, they asked him, what do you feel is the most important thing to search for? He said, I'm looking for the unified field theory, because I want to see how all things can be interconnected. Now, he was a genius in recognizing that's what the human heart is longing for, an understanding of the universe that unites all phases and realities into a single holistic understanding. And that's what Baha'u'llah manifests in this day, that Abraham began 4,000 years ago, when in Iraq he awakened us to the realization there's a single source of all reality, one divine reality, invisible and indescribable.
And from there we continue into the valley of knowledge.
This is the primacy of knowledge and obedience. That it's one thing to recognize truth, it's another thing to start putting it into effect. And so God has revealed the principles and solid principles of law, that society must be operated from law, of which all souls must bend before, bow down before it, because that's where the equity comes. All the manifestations of God taught it, where king and beggar on one level are the same. And in Moses' teaching, we see the principle of justice being a key principle of society, backed up by law, and the study of the law, and the study through knowledge of what's right. And this, of course, was first revealed to us in the religious context by Moses. So this is the Mosaic level of development inside the journey of the soul, inside the Baha'i faith. That's why the Aqdas is the highest ranking book